One of the biggest things that I think that I've learned a lot is that we need to give kids a lot more freedom and give them the chance. They will surprise us every time.
I want kids to feel that even if they fail, they were successful. And I think we've accomplished that when we talk to a lot of kids.
Years ago when we were looking at middle school model, when I came into middle school from high school, it was like, okay, what is this idea of explorations? And from a high school perspective, I thought it was like pre-electives that you would choose to take. And so they're exploring all of these passions. And then after a couple of years, we were kind of like, okay, if explorations is a big part of middle school, how come we don't have anything that is explorations perspective in terms of a school-wide event? If everyone's taking it, we're teaching the skills, but they never actually get to show us if they've learned it or what they've learned. So what if we had an opportunity for them to show us what they've learned after being 3 years in our spaces?
We call them explorations here, but the US model calls them essentials. And their key to the success of a middle school is to have that connectivity to the school. So from that, we went back and forth in conversations and using that ADST model, which is actually the design thinking model. It's based off of that, which comes from business, which comes from industry, which then ties all these elements of our world together and makes this a real world, a way that engineers and doctors and lawyers and accountants and all these real world people see problems and solve problems is through a design-based thinking process.
And we both had this unique idea or a beginning of an idea where what if we actually carved out dedicated time from explorations where the kids could have access to our spaces and show us what they've learned. Over the next months and with some consultation with the administration, kind of this idea, what we call the Exhibition of Wonder was born, where we stopped all exploration classes and we created this booklet to help guide the kids through it, that they could have, again, 3 full days of access. What could they do? We call it the passion project, but a lot of kids don't know what they're passionate about. There's more of an infatuation of the years. Is it bottle flipping? Is it fidget spinning? And so there's, as pre-teenagers and teenagers, they're just so infatuated with the moment, they actually don't know how to empathize with themselves. So we actually guide them through that process of learning the activities they like to do. Then when we get to the actual build days, it traditionally goes like that first hour is everyone just kind of figure out where their space is, what are they gonna do, okay, now it's time to build, and they just start cutting or laying out or whatever it is, and they start going, and about 3/4 of the way through that first day is when they start to realize, wait a minute, I'm probably not as planned as well as I should be. And that was something that we learned after the first year. So we actually specifically said, okay, after day 1, we're gonna shut down early and you have to go readjust your plan. And then into the second day, they come in with, and they're really getting into the finishing of the initial cuts and starting to put things together. But inevitably, sometime on day 3, there's that moment where something didn't work or it didn't go to plan.
I heard that something went wrong with your cake. And she was like, oh yeah. And I said, well, did you learn anything? She's like, yeah. Do you know what you did wrong? Yeah. Do you know how to fix it? Yeah. Do you have a plan? Yep. And I'm like, that warms my heart. That's what we want out of it. We want the kids to realize that, yeah, that went wrong, but this went better.
And we've had different levels. We've had kids crying and their friends wrapping around them to be that support system where we just kind of sat back and watched. We've had some students that traditionally kind of like, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, kind of take a walk, calm themselves, and get right back to work and solve the problem. And it really is that opportunity to look at failure from a different perspective where they have to learn how to overcome it because there's no one there to pick up the slack for them, no parent, no teacher, anything. And that's what we really noticed in the last couple of years. You talk about perseverance and what does it mean? It's like the kids actually get a chance to persevere on their own.
For me, like the successes are when a kid's like, this isn't working. And I go, well, what are we gonna do? And they're gonna be like, well, I could do this and I could do that. And I'm like, well, let's try it. And they're taking the whole thing apart and they're fixing themselves. I say the perseverance piece, but to me, there are no failures in the Exhibition of Wonder. There's only kids that pick themselves back up and find the next best way to solve a problem. And to me, that's like the success, because I'm building little mini, like that's what adults need. That's what teenagers need, is that ability to pick themselves back up.
We actually connected with some students from current grade 12 group in last year's exhibition. Their feedback was the autonomy piece.
The pieces that I believed I see was coming out of it for the kids, but I wanted to have actual data to prove it. So we put 10 kids into a case study. We coded all their reflections, which were done through the core competencies. And what we discovered, the most surprising success of it, was what John referred to earlier as the autonomy. The fact that the kids came back to us in that study and then just in talking to us, the biggest success is the kids feel like even when they failed, that they were successful. And they had this beautiful amount of, they had time to pursue at their own pace something that they wanted to do. And I think the biggest success is like, this is the first time in school where I wasn't told what my project had to be. And because of that, they own it. I think that's the first big success. I think the other one is the kids that wow us in unexpected ways.
To see the hidden talents that we don't know. I have the luxury of teaching woodwork as a job, and I love, my passion is doing this, but it's not everybody's favorite. And to see their talent come through in a way that freedom of expression is one of the things that the students have always said that they get to choose, and not just through art or through making. It's really fun to see, and it makes me happy for the future, for their futures, that they're going to actually now have really informed choice on the types of courses they want to take in high school that's going to fulfill them.
The Exhibition of Wonder and the deliberate placing of it through a reflective process with 21st century skills, which are the core competencies, we're prepping these kids by having them reflect through thinking, communication, personal and social responsibility. This is the value for educators. It allows a framework through which kids can truly connect their own learning to the competencies that we are trying to put into place.